Okay, it is 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, according to my computer. Welcome to the regular Monday night class of Against the Stream. If you're new, welcome. Okay, and it is 7:30 p.m. Oh shit! Hold on. Pacific Standard Time, according to my computer. Welcome to the. Okay, got the double feedback. If you're new, again, welcome. And we're a regular meditation group. We meet every Monday. We start with a period of meditation, guided meditation, usually about 30 minutes or so. I'll give instructions. Even if you're new, it's appropriate. You can follow along. And then we'll follow up with a talk, a Buddhist lecture, what we call a Dharma talk, and some discussion. This next, few months, I'm going through my book, The Heart of the Revolution, kind of chapter by chapter, not so much as a book study, more just as a guide of the topics that I'm going to be giving talks on and practice about. The book is mostly about loving kindness and what we call the heart practices, developing compassion and equanimity, appreciation, also forgiveness and loving kindness. So we'll be practicing in that kind of mode for the next, 2, 3, 4 months, however long it takes to get through it, however slow I go through the process. Since we haven't quite opened up to the heart practices yet, I'll stick with the mindfulness instruction for tonight. And my own sense and my teacher's sense is that mindfulness, which is bringing the attention to the present, to the here and now, works best if you bring an attitude of kindness, an attitude of friendliness, of patience and acceptance. If we bring a kind of a gentle and accepting aspiration to our meditation practice, then the whole thing unfolds much better. Sometimes we can get a little too eager, a little too much effort, and people end up turning meditation into another way to judge ourselves, another thing to fail at, rather than a very healthy long-term process of training the mind. So again, everybody welcome and glad you're with us. Try to stay for the whole class if you can, hear the talk, hear the discussion. And we'll begin with a period of sitting meditation. So find a way to sit that is upright and relaxed. Find a place in your space, maybe you're already there, in your chair, on your couch, on your bed, wherever you're sitting, and arrange your posture so that your body is upright without being rigid or stiff, so that we're sitting in a relaxed, upright posture. And allowing the eyes to be gently closed. We turn the attention inward into the body. With the intention to be patient and accepting and kind towards whatever we experience, towards our minds, our bodies, our emotions. Releasing any physical tension that you can release, softening the brow, the eyes, the jaw. Releasing any tension in the neck or shoulders, if you can. Let the shoulders just fall a little bit more away from the ears towards the earth. Breathing in, feel the breath as it enters the body, through the nostrils. And breathing out, see if you can soften further the trunk of the body, the belly, soft belly. Letting the thoughts be in the background, letting the sounds be in the background. Directing our attention to the sensations that the breath creates. We start with mindfulness of breathing. Not trying to stop the mind, but we are trying to stop paying attention to the thoughts of future and past and bring our full attention to the present. A simple anchor experience in the present of the breath coming and going. Breathing in, what lets you know that you're breathing in? What do you feel? Breathing out, what lets you know that you're breathing out? How do you receive the sensations as the breath comes and goes? When the attention is drawn away from the breath, as it will be naturally, just acknowledge where it's going, back into thinking. No need to judge it or fight with your mind. Just acknowledge thinking. Name it with a friendly, accepting tone in your own heart and mind, if you can. And then come back to the breath. Disengage from that thought, setting it aside, not now. Come back to the breath. Keeping our attention in the body with the breath as the anchor, but other sensations as well. Know that you're sitting. Feel the contact with the cushion, the chair. We'll bring mindfulness to the breath coming and going, but it's really to the whole body, sitting, breathing. This is the first foundation of mindfulness practice, where we attune to our physical form, this body. The sense door of feeling the body. Feeling a breath or two, and then the mind wanders. Acknowledging thinking, returning to the breath. Experiment with noting in and out with each breath, or counting the breath up to 10. That can help you gather the attention, stay more present with the breath, more embodied, more here. The whole body, head to toe, arms and legs, hands and feet, filled with sensations. Expand from the breath. Investigate the body right here and now. What sensations are present in your feet? Your legs? All of the touch points where the body is touching the chair, the seat that you're on. Contact of our hands resting on the lap, on the legs. Arms resting against the trunk of the body. And feel your clothing rubbing against your skin. As the torso expands and contracts with each breath, feel the shirt rubbing. The eyes closed, contact, eyelid, lips likely touching, tongue resting in the palate. Keep on disengaging from your mind, returning to your body. In one teaching, the Buddha said that all of the Dharma, all of the liberating truth, will be revealed right here in this body. Pay that close of attention to your body, as though everything that you're seeking is right here, not that we're going to think our way to it, but that we're going to feel it right here in the body. We're going to know it directly. We're all addicted to our minds and get seduced back into thinking. Just the way it is. Just acknowledge thinking, planning, remembering, hope, fear, worry, whatever the mind is doing. You don't have to stop it. It's so important to see that you can choose to return to the body, disengage, reconnect with the breath, the body sitting. Feel the impermanent nature of each breath. How each breath is different than the last. A beginning, middle, end. A new texture, temperature, depth. Investigate the body. Use your mind to inquire, to investigate the here and now, to contemplate what's happening, what you're feeling. As we open to the second level, the second foundation of mindfulness, in the body, what's pleasant, what's unpleasant, what's neutral. Identifying your own perception of each breath, the contact with the seat, anything unpleasant, we learn to tolerate, to meet with mercy and compassion. Knowing that it's impermanent, that this pain will change, will pass. Just sit with it. Tolerate it with mindfulness. Anything that's pleasant, you can direct your attention to. Also impermanent, changing. So we try to meet it with non-attached appreciation, enjoying the pleasant moments as they come and go. Ultimately, we need to learn to meet our pain with compassion. Mindfulness helps us do that as we turn towards the reality of the impermanent, unpleasant sensations in the body. We learn tolerance, which leads to mercy and compassion. Softening into each moment just as it is. The ache in the back, the pain in the knees, the loud mind, the worried heart. All met with acceptance, friendliness. Right now, it's like this. For the last couple of minutes, stop trying to be present, relax, maybe even shift your posture without opening your eyes. Feel the sensations of moving, stretching, releasing pain, and pay attention. Where does that, if your body was uncomfortable, where does it go? How quickly does it dissipate? And when you're ready, you can allow your eyes to be open. Bring your attention back to the room, wherever you be. So I'm going to begin this, we began last week with the intro to the heart of the revolution. And as I've said, the core of this teaching is about the importance of loving kindness, the importance of compassion, the importance of non-attached appreciation and forgiveness, and what we call heart practices, this emotional intelligence, this ability to meet life in a intelligently emotional response, the response that doesn't cause suffering, the response that ends suffering. But the book begins, and I'll begin tonight with this first chapter, which is about why is it so difficult? And even just thinking about that for a moment, like why isn't it easy to just be compassionate? You know that compassion's the right thing to do, right? You know that we should just meet pain with compassion. We should just be kind. Kindness is the right thing to do. Why is it so difficult to be kind sometimes? Forgiveness is the right thing to do. Rather than holding on to our resentments and suffering about them, just let go. Non-attachment, right? Like it's the right, the wisest, most appropriate thing to do is not cling. It's so simple. Be compassionate, if we had to break it down into two skills, there's more, maybe we'd say three, which is meet everything unpleasant inside of you and in the world with compassion. Everything unpleasant, both internally and externally, meet it with compassion, and you won't suffer about it. You'll just care about it. No suffering. Meet everything pleasant, internally and externally, with non-attachment. Stop clinging, you won't suffer, you'll stop suffering. And then, maybe the ultimate, which is a bit encompassing of those first two, which is stop taking everything so personal. Realize that this self-centered, I, me, mine existence is a setup for suffering. So stop taking it all so personal. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just make those decisions from now on? There's so many like self-help books that are written in that sort of ridiculous, just don't take things personally. As if we can stop, as if it's just a decision we can make. So obviously, I imagine everybody kind of understands this already. It's not just a decision we can make, or we all would have made it, right? Wouldn't you have already just been like, fuck, I'm not going to hate anymore. I'm going to meet everything and everyone with love. I'm going to be kind all of the time to myself and to everyone else. I'm going to have non-attachment. I'm going to have integrity. I'm going to have renunciation when that's appropriate, and indulging when that's appropriate. If it was just a decision we could make. One of the reasons why the Buddha said this path goes against the stream is because reality is shit ain't like that. You can't just make those decisions. Compassion, true, deep compassion is in many ways counter to our own survival instincts. Non-attachment is for sure counter against our own survival instincts. And, not taking everything personal is not a is against, this sort of I, me, mine is, again, it's this sort of instinctual drive. We're born into a self-centered system. Our operating system that is just in us, is just implanted in us, is one of self-centered craving and aversion. So the good news is, and I hope this resonates, I like it to frame it like this. The good news is it's not your fault. It's not just that you've been doing it all wrong and that's why you've been suffering. It's not your fault. This is the Buddha's first noble truth. Suffering is normal. Stress and unhappiness and grief and sorrow and the norm. Just what humanity is born into. Not your fault. Not just because you've been extra self-centered, but maybe. The setup is that we are born into a, the Buddha never really explains this, but here's how I kind of get my mind around it. He never really asks he never really answers the question, well, why are we born into a body that craves pleasure and hates pain and is self-centered? Why are we born, why aren't humans, I guess the way that I would frame it is why haven't we evolved yet into beings that are compassionate? Why haven't we, why are humans still in this, sort of base, kind of gross state of greed, hatred, and delusion? Why? Don't you want to know why? I do. But the Buddha never answers. He never really tells us why. He just says, this is the way it is. Here we are. Why isn't really the right answer or the right question. The right question is, what the fuck are we going to do about it? This is the way it is. I crave pleasure. I hate pain. I take everything personal. And I suffer. And I don't want to suffer anymore. How do I break this self-centered craving and aversion reality cycle that we all have been born into? So he doesn't answer the why, but what I believe and what evolutionary biology, you know, kind of borrowing from the scientists, breaking out of the Buddhists and borrowing from, you know, the education resources that we have, biological evolution over millions of years is that we have a survival instinct, we have natural selection, we have craving for pleasure as a biological imperative to reproduce, to exist. Not personal, it's not anybody's fault, it's just the way it is. It's just how we have evolved. And we haven't evolved to the place where we feel so, you know, abundant and so safe and so whatever we want to call it, that we're no longer constantly fueled by craving and aversion. We're still, neuroscience says that, like, you know, the majority of our thoughts are still fueled by what they call the reptile brain. And it's the amygdala, that part of our brain that, you know, is fight or flight, is craving, aversion, is, you know, self-centeredness, resentment, all, you know, revenge. That the majority of our thoughts are coming from that instinctual survival instinct part of the brain. And the fact that they call it the reptilian, it's because it's the same exact brain that we share, that same instinct that we share with reptiles, that we share with fish, that we share with all, you know, I don't know how small the living being has to get before it no longer has that, but I think it's just that fight or flight survival instinct that all sentient beings have. Now we have these big human neocortexes where we have expanded consciousness and great memories and ability to fantasize and creativity and, you know, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. We have this a big brain. My friend Wes Nisker, Dharma teacher Wes Nisker, was, you know, and he's one of the teachers that inspired me, that's really into this biological evolutionary perspective on humanity and how we can, you know, in order to really, part of what we're really trying to do in Dharma practice is actually evolve, not stay stuck in this place that the human Homo sapiens are kind of stuck in, of greed, hatred, and delusion, but actually evolve into awakened beings. There is this potential to train the mind so thoroughly that we respond differently, that we actually, you know, the whole conversation, that we actually have compassion, that we actually can practice non-attachment, that we actually learn to not take it all so personal and suffer about it. And oh, and he was saying that, you know, whatever it is, 80-90% of our the, you know, majority of our thoughts are fueled by this self-centered, fear-based part of the mind, and that most of what we use our kind of right, you know, hemisphere, left hemisphere, neocortex is to make excuses for why we're having these thoughts and feelings, to judge it, to, you know, create philosophies around it, to, you know, justify, like, why do we have so much lust and fear? And, you know, we've created whole religions about it, assigned it all to, you know, sin and, you know, demons, and rather than just, yeah, it's just a brain, just what a brain does. not that personal. So we're up against our own biology. And it's not unsurmountable. This is the Buddha's teaching. We can, even though suffering is the norm, first noble truth, we can get free from suffering in this lifetime. It is possible. But that we have this dilemma of the reality is everything's impermanent, which half of the time is good news. Aren't you grateful for impermanence when shit's difficult, when life is painful, when your knee aches in the middle of meditation and you're like, well, it's impermanent. It will last forever. Impermanence, like the reality, the irrefutable law of nature is everything is impermanent. But our instincts, our craving, our tendency to cling, right? The second noble truth. Why do we suffer? Because we don't live in harmony with impermanence. Because we're clinging to impermanent experiences, people, places, things, thoughts, emotions, situations. Our instinct is to get attached, is to cling. Our instinct is to push away anything that's unpleasant, to suppress, avoid, medicate, justify, rationalize. So we're in this setup where our internal wiring creates suffering. The natural human tendency is to suffer about the painful shit that's happening and to get attached to the pleasant experiences that are happening. In order to get free, in order to change our relationship to this human mind and body and instinctual drives, and the Buddha says, let's unpack what's really going on here. And he says there's only 5 things. If you really look at why we are suffering, he says we're suffering because of our misidentification, our personalizing and attachment to or aversion to the body. So, and it's where we spent most of our meditation tonight. Just meditate, being mindful, what's happening in your body, breath coming and going, sensations. So just reflect for a moment, how identified with your body are you? How much do you think, I am this body? This is who I am. This is what I am. This is how this body feels, dictates whether I'm happy or I'm unhappy. If I'm healthy, and then I'm happy. If I'm sick, I'm unhappy. If I'm in pain, I'm unhappy. If my body is experiencing pleasure, that's good. I like that. If my body is experiencing pain, I suffer about it. I hate it. So all of that is around this first, what's called skandha, or heap or pile of the human experience, our body. But what is this body really? The way that the Buddha breaks it down, he says, what's going on here really? Just the 4 elements. This body that we take so personally, that we become so identified with, that we are born into, that we age in, that we are, I don't know, custodians of this body. Just the four elements. There's the earth element, and there's the air and fire and water element. And when, you know, when we're fetuses, when we're, you know, in the gestation and you know, kind of growth maturation process in our mother's stomachs, it's, you know, just the four elements. You know, her body is the four elements, and then she's eating the four elements, all of the food that is created based on the four elements, and then that forms our body, and this body is the four elements. And this is one of the things to reflect on and to practice with. This is part of the first foundation of mindfulness. To see the body, to experience the body, to reflect these four elements that make up this body are the same four elements that make up everything in existence. We can feel so separate, so disconnected from each other, so disconnected from nature, so disconnected from, but we're actually completely the same substance. Four elements, experiencing the four elements in all of these different forms. This human body is impermanent, constantly changing. It's one of the reasons why we bring mindfulness to the body. As I said in the instructions tonight, the body itself will reveal, if we pay close attention, what do you see in your body? Impermanent sensations arising and passing. Some are pleasant, some are unpleasant, some are neutral, but it's all impermanent. And it's constantly changing, although our perception isn't sometimes sharp enough to see the impermanence, so we kind of get this delusion of like, this one's really lasting. This one's really sustaining for a long time. But if, you know, the sharper our concentration, the sharper our perception, the more we see the subtle reality of impermanent sensations, and the more we start to see this body is truly just the four elements. So one of the, in order to get free, in order to wake up, we have to change our relationship to the body. We have to start to see this body is not my true self. It's not who I actually am. It's a temporary, impermanent, unfolding, you know, from birth, it's changing, maturing, growing. And we have this memory, which is one of the other skandhas, piles. We have this memory, so we think like, oh yeah, I remember being a kid. But because of impermanence and cellular regeneration, and there's nothing left in your body from when you were a child. Not one cell. Nothing left but memories. Just mental impressions. That's not, you know, that's gone. Just living in the mind now. This body is constantly changing. And then I forget how old it is, but it's younger than you'd think when your body starts to decay. First, it's like, you know, you're a kid and you're growing up and the body is growing. And then at some point, I think it's like early 20s, maybe. And from there, like from there on out, all the body's doing is decaying. It's just fucking gravity is just winning slowly from, I don't know, somebody probably knows the age, it's like 22 or something like that on. You're just dying, you're just decaying. But we're so attached, right? And how much do we attach? How much do we suffer about craving for, clinging to, wanting a body to stay young that has no ability to stay young? How much do we get? And, you know, I think it's easy to talk about our materialist youth culture. Maybe it's not true everywhere, but certainly America's a glaring example of, you know, youth culture, where there's very little respect for the elderly. There's very little, you know, death needs to be dressed up and put makeup on and make them look as young as possible, and bodies are supposed to, you know, stay young. It's what's healthy, it's what's sexy, it's what's desirable, rather than accepting, like, no, we're just aging bodies. That's what's happening here. Not so personal, not so and truly unavoidable, you know. And just, so I ask you to reflect a little bit on where you're at. I think that there's many stages of our relationship to our own bodies. And a pretty common shift that does happen as you meditate more, as you wake up more to the reality, to the nature of impermanence and change, sickness and aging and death of a physical body, that we start to be less identified with the body, less vanity, less attachment, more acceptance. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't eat the green stuff and exercise and, you know, do what we can to keep a healthy body, right? I kind of think of our role with our body as I don't know if this fits or not, but like as a custodian, as like a steward. Like, this body is not who we actually are, but it is what we are going to experience our life through. So of course, do what we can to stay healthy, while accepting that as we age, we're going to have more and more limitations, and we're not going to be able to have the, we just won't have the energy that we had when we were younger as we get older. That just is part of aging, and we accept that. So this whole first reality is we're in this body, and we're in this body driven by a survival instinct that is out of whack with impermanence. Then part two, number two, I don't know if I'll get all the way through all five, but we'll see. Body and then mind. Your mind, we're born, as I was talking about, these brains with the survival instinct, the fight or flight, the craving, the aversion, the self-centered tendency of the human mind. There's a body, there's a mind. And the mind includes, the roots of emotions. Emotion, sometimes people like to kind of make this separation of like the heart and the mind, but the Buddhist perspective, the word that the Buddhism uses for the mind is chitta, C-H-I-T-T-A, and it translates as heart mind, with this understanding that our brains aren't separate from our emotions, and that actually it is our brain that gives rise to emotion. But of course, the heart, what we call that center channel in the body is what experiences emotion. You know, they're both thoughts and what we call feelings, as in emotional sensations in the body. And so we have these minds that are not self, not personal. It's not, you know, like the whole setup, as I said before, not your fault. You're just born with a impermanent body and a self-centered mind. Everyone is. Now, I do think that, you know, if we have enough early life adverse experiences, what we like to call traumas or extra difficulties, it can change the wiring, you know. It can make it even worse, even more difficult. But the reality is it's difficult for everyone. Human life is just, it's difficult for everyone. Everyone suffers. And then, you know, many people suffer so much that we turn to substances and we turn to behaviors and we become addicted and we, you know, respond to the pain of our life in ways that actually just make it worse and worse. Worse and worse. So part of the mindfulness that we bring, and tonight I mostly stuck with the body, but the third foundation is stop ignoring your mind and pay attention to your mind, because you will see that your mind has a mind of its own, that we're not in control as much as we want to think we are. It's not as personal as we've been taking it. And you can start to pretty quickly, as you practice mindfulness, of a kind of what my teacher calls unentangled participation with your thoughts. So it's not a detached observation, but it's a not being so entangled in I am thinking, but this quality of experiencing the thought and participating with it. And you can investigate and start to identify how many of the thoughts are intentional and how many are unintentional or volitional or non-volitional. And just like in your meditation tonight, what was your mind thinking about? And were you doing that on purpose? Right? Were you sitting here, you know, doing the kind of shopping list for the week, or the, you know, intentionally plotting your revenge, or intentionally worrying about some shit? Like, I think I'll just sit here during meditation and I'm going to worry about money tonight. Or I'm going to feel lonely, or whatever, you know, like as soon as you start meditating, you know, for most people, it becomes so obvious. The mind just has its way with us. And we don't have that much control. We don't have control over it. We do have influence, like even in that simple practice of learning to break our addiction to our minds by paying attention to the breath, disengaging from the I, me, mind, doubt, fear, craving, stories in the mind, and just coming back to breathing in, breathing out. And it's so key. It's such an important skill to be able to disengage, but we can't do that forever. So this is where the third foundation comes in of like, okay, break your addiction, your identification with the mind, but now develop discernment, because the mind is also the place where you're going to experience wisdom. Yes, it's filled with self-centered sources of suffering, but it's also going to be, you know, the trained mind becomes an ally, becomes wisdom mind. And so you have to have that unentangled participation as we train the mind. And then you see more and more, oh, there's wisdom arising. There's compassion in my mind. There's easy non-attachment, forgiveness, and all of that also experienced by the mind. So this trap that some people get into, right? You come to meditation, you're like, well, my mind's causing me suffering, so I'm going to ignore it. And it feels better when I'm ignoring it. What a dead end that is, right? What a temporary low level of relief is a relaxation technique meditation where you're just sort of replacing your thoughts and ignoring it, rather than what the Buddha, this brilliant teaching from the Buddha of turn towards your mind and see it clearly. See that all thoughts are impermanent, that some thoughts are wise and wholesome and worth engaging with, and some thoughts are ignorant and confused, and not, just let it be impermanent. And developing discernment, that unentangled participation and wakefulness of what is happening in our own minds. So this list of the body and the mind both are coming under this, the three characteristics. Everything in the body is impermanent, is unsatisfactory because it's impermanent, and it is impersonal or not self. Everything that arises in the mind, impermanent, unsatisfactory, impersonal, not self. It's not who we are. We're not these bodies. We're not this mind. There's not a identity that we can, cling to. It doesn't stop us from trying. Third thing on the list, the reality of we're born into this human body, we have a mind, and we have feeling tone. That everything that the mind and body experience are perceived, are felt as pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. Everything, every single sound that comes through the sense door of hearing, instantly you decide, unconsciously, it's not even you deciding, the mind decides, I like that. I don't like that. Neutral, neither liking nor disliking. Instantly, everything that the eye sees, there is a instinctual liking, disliking, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral perception of whatever we experience through the eyes, through the ears, through the nose, through the tongue. And it's so easy to get stuck in our self-centered perspective that what I perceive as pleasant is pleasant. Right? Of really not just having that wakefulness that's like, this is just my perception, but to really assign that meaning of like, I have great taste and what I like is the good shit. And anybody that disagrees with me, they're just wrong. If you don't think chocolate is delicious, you're just wrong. If that's not pleasant to you, and so this is such a key to our happiness. And again, to see that all of the feeling tones, all of our perceptions are changing, are impermanent. And much of it is very much impersonal. It's based on the conditioning of our life, of our culture, of our... I don't know how many Australians we have with us tonight, or American folks, like Vegemite, for instance, the taste of Vegemite. I don't, how many people find that pleasant, really? And, millions and millions of, Australians and maybe English, and it's delicious to them. Their perception is their conditioning is you eat that stuff from when you're a kid and it's just delicious. right? They have a pleasant perception of it. But, you know, for most people, I think, I could be wrong, but my sense is that for most people, if you don't grow up eating that shit and you try it, you're like, whoa, this is fucking disgusting. This is unpleasant. How do you put spoonfuls of that shit on your toast? So this is the second foundation of mindfulness. As the more we become mindful and we see what's happening in our body, what's arising in our mind emotionally, and we start to investigate pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, everything internally perceived that way. And the more we can name it and know it, the more we can take responsibility for, that's just my perception. That's not truth. Vegemite's not gross. My perception of it is it's unpleasant. That music isn't terrible. Just my perception is that it's not pleasant to me. And my tastes and my preferences and my conditioned responses, they're not the right ones and everybody else is wrong. We each are just in this conditioned experience of we have different perceptions of what's pleasant and what's not pleasant. And you can avoid so much conflict in your life if we can learn to communicate, and communication is part of it, but it's just like that understanding of these are just my perceptions, rather than it's the reality, then it's the truth. And there's a humility that comes with this kind of awakening of just because I experience something to be unpleasant doesn't mean you do. Just because I experience something to be pleasant doesn't mean everyone else does or has to agree with me. So feeling tone, mind, body, feeling tone. And then there's the part of the mind, and then the next two are both parts of the mind that the Buddha breaks out. And he says, and then there's this way that we perceive the world based in memory, sense impressions of the past, and how we create this delusion of permanence based on memory. A lot of the coming together of I am the same person that I was 10 years ago and 20 years ago and 30 years ago is based on because I can remember it. Now, what we know is that our memories are imperfect and they're biased, and the kind of we make up all kinds of stories about the past based on if it was pleasant or it was unpleasant, or we really don't have a photographic memory of what happened, but we have our perception and our stories about what happened. But memory is unreliable, and it is impermanent, and it is impersonal, and it is unsatisfactory, and it can cause us so much suffering. And just reflecting on, like, in your meditation or in your life, how much of the past thoughts does, what's your mind's tendency in the memory? Do you remember the pleasant times? Are you somebody who reminisces a lot about the good old days? That was so cool. The 80s was the best. And girl, when I was a kid, growing up was, we were fucking, punk rock was dangerous. It was so cool. You spend a lot of time in that, or does your mind have a tendency to remember and create an identity around the pain? It was so painful. I've been through so many hardships. I've suffered so much. And really kind of get identified with the pain, the memories. Or future, right? How much did I, how much of the planning mind, the projecting ourselves, the creating of the future imagined self is about like how great it's going to be, how much fun that vacation's going to be, how wonderful. It's 2021, the suffering is over, finally. 2020 was terrible, but the future is going to be awesome. The past sucks. The present sucks. The future is going to suck. Just looking at how does your mind have a tendency towards worrying or optimistic? It's going to be great. Fantasizing. Do we, but this skandha, this part that the Buddha is talking about, he says, okay, there's a body, there's a mind, there's feeling tone, there's memory, and then the final one, consciousness. Now, think about, consciousness is that part of the brain that knows, that is mindful, that can receive the sense impressions of sound, of smell, of taste, of seeing, of emotions, that part of us that is conscious. Also included in impermanent, consciousness is impermanent. Consciousness is unsatisfactory, and consciousness is not self. It is not who we are. And there are so many really seemingly wise beings that just stop and turn consciousness into an identity and don't really wake up to consciousness is a impermanent, impersonal process that this human body gives birth to. If you have a body and a brain, you have consciousness. It's not our identity. It's not the big self, or a lot of spiritual traditions turn consciousness into the soul, the spirit, and the Buddha says, no, but it's just what the brain does. It's no big deal. Nothing to see here, nothing to get attached to here. Don't worry about it. It's just a natural byproduct of birth. You're conscious. It's not, don't get stuck there of like, oh, I'm conscious. I'm so spiritual because I'm this consciousness. Like, no, it's just, everyone is. It's no big deal. Nothing to see here, people. I feel like, I don't know how much this fits, but I feel like there's like phases of spiritual development. There's that, from a Buddhist perspective, I'm going to diss, okay? But from a Buddhist perspective, there's that phase that most of us come in with, which is like, I am this body, this mind, I'm a human being, and I'm seeking a spiritual experience. I would like to transcend this human experience because this is who I am and I want to get rid of it. This sucks. Right? I want to avoid it. I want to, enlighten it away. I'm a human being seeking spiritual awakening. And then there's that shift that some people like to get into where they say, well, I've become so spiritual. I'm no longer identified with being this body. Now I realize I'm a spiritual being having a temporary human experience. I am the consciousness that knows this body and mind. Again, just a lack of deeper investigation. Where the Dharma takes us to is to understand that there's just a body and a mind and consciousness and memory and feeling tones. That's just what's unfolding here. and they are knowing themselves. Consciousness knows the thoughts and knows the sensations, and there is no owner of that consciousness. It is not self. It is not who we are. It is not the reality. It's just the impersonal, impermanent phenomena of being that's unfolding. And when we can wake up to that, then we can stop suffering about it. And we can say, oh, okay, this is all not so personal, but if I train my mind, my heart, I can learn to meet life with compassion. I can learn to meet the impermanent reality of this impersonal process with non-attachment. There is a way to navigate this human-ness, this being-ness, without suffering about it, and without taking it all so seriously, personally, gravely. The beginning of this chapter, starts with this, that piece that I shared last week about fuck the world, about not falling into the trap of seeking our happiness from the world. It said, the Buddha spoke of a middle path, a path that leads against the stream and between two dead ends. The first dead end is that of worldliness, of seeking happiness from the material or sensual experiences. And that all of this list of the 5 skandhas, if we're looking to the body as our source of happiness, or to the mind as our source of happiness, or pleasure, pleasant sensations, or clinging to consciousness as self, then we're stuck in this dead end of materialism. Even the body, this material body. The body is our vessel for training. It is our responsibility to care for. It is the path to awakening. It is not self. I hope that this makes some sense to you. There was one more section in this chapter that I didn't get to that was about karma. I'll have to pick up there next week, where we'll start with some conversation about, okay, if there's no self here, who owns the karma? That's what's on your mind, right? Like, okay, well, if I'm not consciousness, where's this karma sticking to anyways? What's the vessel for the karma? We'll start there next week. I could take 1 or 2 questions if there's any comments or clarifications about what I've shared with you tonight. And again, I do want to say, and I don't always say this, but like, here's the Buddha's teachings. It's my interpretation. You don't have to believe this shit. Reflect on it. See how it works in your life. Like really, it's for your contemplation, for your practice, your investigation, not like I'm right and, everyone else is wrong, or the Buddhism is the only truth. Check it out for yourself. Find your own way with it. I see some questions coming in. Linda Lee, go for it. Unmute yourself.
Hi there. I actually was, I didn't have a question. Thank you for calling.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay. I thought your hand got raised. Okay.
But thank you.
No problem. Nice to see you.
Thank you, you too.
Okay, there was a couple questions in the... If I understand you correctly, you were reminding during the meditation that the entire truth can be found within ourselves. If that's the case, how does one embrace that without becoming self-centered? Surely we should also find at least some truth in the external, no? Rick, what I was saying was, quoting the Buddha saying that in this body, So, it's this whole question that we're having. Is the body ourselves? The Buddha is saying, in this very body, all of the Dharma, the liberating truth of impermanence, will be revealed if you pay attention to your body. Now, the last part, the external, the reality is everything external will also reveal the Dharma. The Dharma is nature. If we see nature clearly, we'll see impermanence clearly. If we see impermanence clearly, we'll stop clinging. If we stop clinging, we'll stop suffering. So both internal and external. Amanda says, the bit about liberation being revealed in the body kind of blew my mind. Living with chronic pain often has me wanting to escape my body. Thanks for the insight. You're very welcome. Yeah, and it's hard when your experience is unpleasant, but also this teaching that has us say, okay, there's a body and then there's perception of these impermanent feeling tones can really help us change our relationship to the chronic pain. Last question, I'll end here. Says, Noah, if the body, mind, etc. are not the true self, is there a true self? Would it be those aspects without attachment? The Buddhist answer is there is no true self. There is no permanent, abiding, fixed self. The self is a phenomena that is created based in these 5 piles, these 5 skandhas. If you have a mind, a body, a perception, memory, consciousness, you will have the feeling, I am. The byproduct will be the feeling of self. But when you unpack and dismantle this human experience, you will find no permanent fixed self. The analogy that I use in the book, and I'll end here, is that the self is as real as a rainbow. Rainbows are real. They are real phenomena that's created by the right conditions. If you have sunlight and moisture and earth and the 4 elements come together, they will create this image and you will see it, and it's a rainbow and you can see it, and it's a real thing. It's a real phenomena. It doesn't not exist. Same thing with the self. If you have a mind and a body, you will have a self, and it's a real thing. It's not that it doesn't exist. It's just being born out of the conditions of having been born into a body. If that makes sense, you're halfway there. We'll end with that tonight. Class is done by donation. Please be generous if you can. We have a big overhead here. I'm really trying to save the meditation center. Eventually, we're going to be able to come back together and meditate together. We have to keep paying rent in order for us to have a place. I said last week, lots of meditation centers, yoga centers, everybody's closing because they're like, well, we're just on Zoom. But if I lose the lease on this place, I don't think we'll be able to get, it'll be quite difficult to get a new place. So I really want to save the meditation center, support the nonprofit. Many of you do that by becoming monthly supporters. If you're not already a monthly supporter, please consider it. There's a link in the chat that'll take you over to donations. If you can give, $5, $10, $15, $25, $100 a month, whatever you can give to help support what we're doing so that we can continue to be here and have a place to meet, to do retreats, to do trainings, to do, workshops, all of the things cost money. I intentionally don't charge. I want everyone to be here regardless of ability to donate, but there's lots of costs associated and supporting me as a teacher. So please be generous. Go over to the website, make some donations. Become a monthly supporter if you can, and deep gratitude for your participation. Thanks for being here tonight. We're here every Monday, and also check out the other classes. Jason on Wednesdays, Ward on Fridays, Rachel on Tuesdays and Sundays. Check out the other Against the Stream offerings. And I will see you guys next Monday, where we'll start with karma, and then we'll go into the monkey mind, training this impersonal mind of ours. May any goodness that comes from our practice be shared in all directions with all sentient beings.